Hi everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the Velvet Lounge Life. Yes, we have a button edition here. However, I do have some bonus content for you, and I'm going to get right into that in just a moment. So I received some mail, and I decided I know exactly what it is because it's something I ordered. And I decided I was going to wait until I was on air to open this up with you guys. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Cut that joker open. And let's see what's inside. Oh my God, you saw my name. And inside... Oops, I should be doing this in front of the camera. That's how bad I am. But it was wrapped in this paper, sort of. And here it is. It is a button. Go figure. You're watching a button video. And I received a button in the mail that I purchased. And I'm going to share it with you guys. So this is sort of, wow. Okay. So what I ordered, or what I was hoping I was ordering, was a pudding mold button. And a friend of mine and I both looked at this online, and I wasn't sure if it was a pudding mold, and I didn't know if they had or Jello mold button, and I wasn't sure if they had various versions of the Jello mold button or not. And I have to tell you, the reason that sometimes I call these pudding mold buttons is because if you add a half packet of Knox gelatin to your pudding mix and put it in a Jello mold, first you have to just lightly spray the Jello mold with some of that cooking spray so it doesn't stick, and then you pour the whole, your contents in there. And when you unmold it, I mean, it's like the yummiest treat, because now your your pudding has almost a Jello consistency, sort of, but it's actually pudding, and you only use half a packet. So quick menu idea right there for you. But my mother used to do that for us sometimes and spray a little bit of that, and note the word I said, spray, a little bit of that instant Ready Whip on it. And yeah, that was a party in the bag and a quick treat when you have, children. But anyway, this to me is more of a, I want to say maybe it's the berry top, like the one that looks like a raspberry, or in this case, a blackberry. But even that's not kind of accurate, because you can see the molding goes down the side, whereas the berry tops are all just little tiny circles piled on top of each other, or in a, particular pattern. And this one has like a big, circular nobule, if you will, in the center. And then the other issue I find with this button is when I looked at it in the photos, I didn't see it being this rounded on the bottom. So my thought is this is an old button, because I'm looking closer at the shank, and the shank is definitely one of those old antique style shanks. But this rounded part is the reason why I don't believe this is a pudding mold button. I think it's, I'm trying to think, do I think this is a pretty button? Do I think it's just okay? If it was a Jello mold button, I would think that it was pretty cool. And I mean, if I hold it like this, it looks the best that I've ever seen it, actually. But I don't know. Because the thing is, this single button, which is about the size of my pinky fingernail, and I don't have large hands, is it half that size? Yeah, it's about 60% of the size of my nail. I mean, think about it, you guys. How much does silver cost per gram right now? This button cost more than a gram of, is it a gram that I'm thinking of? Yes. Or is it an ounce? But it costs more than, the same amount of silver would cost less than this button did. The button cost me $5. The lady was asking, I believe, like $8 or $8.99 or something like that for it. And I gave her an offer, which she instantly took without going back and forth. So that tells me that, you know, whatever. And then the shipping was like $3.50. And it did come, as you saw, in a first class envelope. So it's not like it came, you know, in a regular envelope or anything like that. So I do, you know, she paid close to the price. She made no money on the shipping. Maybe she made 50 cents. So I think her shipping price was very, very, very fair. But the button itself is, I don't know. I have to look at it later on to see how much I like it. You could tell. Usually if I have to say, shouldn't I, do I, or don't I? Usually I don't. But I think that, you know, this button along with other buttons that are, you know, more exciting, it would be in good company, but it's definitely not my favorite thing. I think it's okay. Now, would I purchase from this lady again? Probably not. And not because she did anything wrong, but kind of because the button isn't as large as I thought it was going to be. So I kind of do feel like she may have cheated a little bit with the pictures with the enlargement. And also, I mean, to pay that much for like one button, that's like $8.50. For me personally, and doing like videos where I'm trying to help people identify buttons, it would become very expensive. Now, when the channel grows, which is God only knows when that will be, because it can only happen with your help, of sharing the videos for others to watch and subscribe to the channel. And that's okay. But the thing I'm trying to say is, because I remember thinking maybe I can buy some buttons and I could showcase some of those. You know, like people buy things and they showcase things and this and that, but it would become really expensive, like to buy these tiny little buttons. And the thing is, resale on a button like this is probably, now that I have it in my hand and I'm looking at it, I'm going to say it's probably $3, $4 max. And, you know, it wouldn't even be worth the time to, for example, list this, for me personally, to list this on eBay to sell it, because by the time I paid all the fees to them, I would actually be losing money on this $8.50 purchase, let alone the time, the effort, the mailing, and all of that. So just some things to be aware of, especially people who are out there, you know, buying buttons in hordes for some reason. And all of us are sitting there saying, like, why are you doing that? And why are you paying so much? If you don't pay, they will lower the prices. They do it all the time. But as long as, you know, the demand and right now the trend, I guess, is there, unfortunately, the prices just will be too high. So just something also for you guys to remember, if you're selling buttons, just be reasonable with the prices. They're buttons. You know, if you have any that are 100% like sterling silver, or they're made of 14, 10, 8, 9 karat gold, 24, 22, whatever the carats are, and it's proven and they're hallmarked with these things, or if it's like if you have actual Schiaparelli buttons and they're signed and it's proven, then those are buttons that, and maybe even some of the Chanel buttons, but they fake a lot of the Chanel buttons. Like if you see them online, be very cautious. Most likely they're fakes. because they're coming out of, look at where they're coming from as well. Like if they're coming out of particular foreign countries, they're probably 99.99% fake. But anyway, if you have authentic Chanel buttons, usually the person who has those still has the outfit and they're not going to cut them off to sell the buttons. But if you are lucky enough to find those, and I'm talking about like the vintage ones, not the plastic ones or anything like that, you know, that is something that you could look at. Also, Yves Saint Laurent, you might be lucky enough to find some of the buttons that he had commissioned for his clothes. So the real reason we're here today is to talk about, ta-da, mirror back buttons. So I have some of my favorite mirror back buttons here on top of this antique book. This book is 130 years old, you guys. Isn't that incredible? But it is. It's 130 years old. And, oh, I will give you a bonus thing to be on the lookout for later on in this video. It is incredibly important, and you might have an item or two or maybe 6 in your house that is worth a lot of money if it's something you're looking to sell. So let's get started right at the top. The reason I have this button here at the top is because it is probably, out of all the buttons that you see on this book, it's my favorite. And the reason why is this is a tinted mirror back button. Now you can see, I don't know how much you can see it, there's not a lot of tint there, but there's like a aqua bluish green tint on the metal, the decorative part, and then of course you can easily see the mirror in the back. And this beautiful beadwork that frames the button around its circumference, absolutely stunning. This is an old button. And, you know, always, as I told you guys, look at the backs, you know, look at the shanks, you know, try to figure out, you know, how old is it? Does it have any hallmarks? Is there a name on the back? You know, obviously, unfortunately, a lot of buttons, you know, people just looked at them as, you know, it's a little thing to give a little bit of flash to your clothing. We're not going to sign it. We're not going to put a hallmark on it. And that's too bad, because we would be able to identify, you know, these little gems easier, obviously, if they did that. And then here, this is probably my second favorite, and I have a couple of these. This one has some slight damage. You can see it right there. And the reason why is this, actually, let me see something. I'm just taking a quick look at something, you guys. So this one has a little damage because that, I believe, is rust. It's a little bit rusty right there. And actually, one of the other things to know about the mirror back buttons is, you know, how are they made? So this is a good example of one to look at because it's made out of 3 parts. So you have this decorative front, as you can see. And what they would do is flip that over, and inside of it, they would put the mirror element. So the thing that's behind it that makes it, you know, sparkle. And then on top of it, they would put the backing on it. This is a self-shank one, as you can see. And then it would be smashed together by a machine, and obviously, if they were old enough, by hand, and then you would end up with the finished product. There are some mirror back buttons that are incredibly old and super delicate that have mica as the mirror element. I don't have any of those. They also have some, which is what I have here, that have steel that's polished and put in the back, or other metals, like as some of these have other miscellaneous metals. that were shined up, polished up, and put in the back so that it would give this mirror back effect, if you will. Here you can see this design, very sort of floral. And the other thing is the size. So as you can see, you have this giganticus of a size right here, the silver one. And then you have these tiny little diminutive ones. These are small, these are medium, and this is a large. And so that's something else, you know, when people are collecting, sometimes they collect by size, you know, whatever. The good thing is when it comes to this type of button, there are plenty of different options out there. I love these. These are just so pretty. They're like pretty just for no reason, like all the scrolling, you get a little bit of the naturalistic effect. These are very, I would say, Art Nouveau in design. And of course you can see the mirror sparkling and, you know, shining its light in the background. And a lot of them have this type of shank system, this type of self shank system, which I find to be very interesting. And if it doesn't have that style of shank, as you saw, it has this style. So, you know, when you're looking for some of the newer ones, this is one that's a bit newer. I believe that this one was made probably, I'm going to say, in like the 50s, maybe anywhere between 1950 and I would say 1970. And why? Because of, first of all, the material. For this to be so large, or giganticus as I like to call it as a nickname, it's very light. Even in comparison to some of these smaller buttons, this button is lighter than some of them. And I do feel as if I just pressed it hard enough between my fingers, the back would collapse into the front, which I won't do that. But you can see the little mirror effect, and that's another thing on this button. The mirror effect is not as, you know, fascinating, partially because the dome is so high on this button, as you can see. But I still like it. Hey, it's a mirror back, and it's almost as if this one is a replica of like this one, for example. This is what is an original from, you know, it's an older button, whereas this one is newer, and it's trying to be a replica of this one. And you can see the difference in the quality. This one has a lot more detail, deeper design. The materials are definitely 100. This is made of brass and other metals, whereas this is just made of something that's like, I'm going to say an aluminum almost. And let's look at this one. This one has, if you look at the pierce work or the little piercing on this, you know, you could barely make out the mirror back there, but it's in there. It's just that the design is so tight, you can barely see it. And then this is another one that's really pretty. And once again, this design is almost so tight, it is almost hard to see the effect. And, oh, these I like as well a lot. And this one, I mean, you could see how much more open the design is, so that you can see the effect a little bit more. And let me see if I get, because these are smaller, so they need a little bit of assistance in the background. So you can see that. And these are, I think, very pretty as well. And then let's just look at one of these little teeny tiny babies. And you can, oops, I saw the glint. Did you see it? Yep, see it? But look at how small this button is. So one of the things I do question sometimes when it comes to buttons this tiny, where they put that much work into it, is, you know, look at how hard it is to see the mirror in the back of that. You know, I wonder if those were made because obviously, you know, some people weren't allowed to have, like, you know, flashier things, or, you know, you couldn't sort of, I hate to use these words, but show off, you know, what you had. So maybe that was a way of being more subtle. Don't know. What is your opinion? Let me know down below. And then this one, you can once again clearly see the mirror in the back, and this has a very different design, because it's not often that I see a 2-hole button or even a 4-hole that's a mirror back. Like, most of them look the way that I showed you as far as the backings go, and as far as, you know, where you would sew your string through. But look at the frame on this. Absolutely amazing. And it's done in like this brass and silver. And then of course you have this pinwheel design, which, I mean, actually, I have to tell you, this may be my second favorite button. That's my first, this is my second, and this is my third. So let me move him up, or he's a he, so yeah, guys can be sparkly and shiny too. But yeah, this button is amazing. I love it. And I think this one was a gift to me by one of you guys, one of my awesome viewers. And I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching my videos. So now let me give you this bonus content. So the reason that I'm showing the buttons on top of this 130-year-old book is because the Dr. Seuss books have had a lot of like play in the news lately, and they're discontinuing 6 of their books. The books are simply being discontinued. Like, you probably can still find them at the library. If you're lucky, the library might be locking those up now, because those books are selling for astronomical amounts of money online and wherever else, you know, through private sales. So it's just the particular 6. I am not going to tell you what they are. I'm going to let you look them up, Google them yourself. But if you do have those books, you know, make sure that you have an idea of what you want to do with them, you know, or simply keep them in rotation, learn from them. Some people love the Dr. Seuss books, but you may have a book that's worth, let's say, $1,000, so you may not want your kids, just the little ones anyway, to just rifle through. You might want to sit there and give them guidance, and also teach them a lesson as to why these books are being discontinued. Dr. Seuss, the organization, will continue to produce books. They're talking about cancel culture. No one is canceling the Dr. Seuss dynasty. They simply are discontinuing books. Items get discontinued for different reasons every single day. So just some bonus, information there, especially for people that are resellers. You might actually be out in the world. Look for these 6 particular books. I am sure that you can probably find them. And thank you guys for tuning in again to the Velvet Lounge Life. I hope that this little thing I did with the mirror backs was helpful. And also, I do want you guys to help me out with this button and tell me how old what era do you think it was made in? Is this something from the 1800s or the early 1900s? What do you think? And also your opinion as to whether you think this button is actually a pudding mold button, adios mio, a jello mold button, or is it, just a pretty, it might be a morning button. I just don't feel as if it's old enough to be a morning button. And that's mourning, like you're mourning someone that died. I don't think that it is, and it's definitely not jet for my European audience. So please tell me what you think it is. Is this a Czechoslovakian button maybe? I don't think so, just because of this portion of it. This button really gave me pause, and I don't know why. But anyway, tell me what your thoughts are down in the comments. I really want to hear what you have to say. Thank you so much for tuning in again. Remember to subscribe to the channel. Also, your health is your wealth, and without your health, you have absolutely nothing. So please, please, please take care of yourselves and be well.